So this is rather interesting here. This is an article that is, in all respects, in any logical way we can say, is completely fake news. Like, this is the biggest hit piece I have ever seen, and it's from the Daily Mail. It's kind of like, if you remember, with Trump, they would come out with these secret dossiers that said Trump actually did this, or he did this, and he did this in Russia, and the weird stuff that it was so strange. And pretty much BuzzFeed was the only one that published it, because whenever they sent it to anyone else, like an actual reputable news source, they would say, no, like, we're not going to publish this. This can't be verified. We have no idea if this is true. This looks fake. We're not going to publish it. But apparently when you send something similar to the Daily Mail, they will be like, oh, okay, this is worth publishing. This is something that we see as legitimate news, even though it's clearly fake. This is stuff that has been covered for years. It's easily able to be fact-checked and context added and all that stuff. So it is rather interesting just to see how the Daily Mail is like, oh, a bunch of little quotes here and here without context, a bunch of screenshots that can easily be faked and has been debunked before. Let's post this stuff. Let's post this as actual news, and we'll call ourselves reputable. So I don't live in the UK, but I gotta be honest, when I watch UK stuff, when I hear people from the UK talk about stuff, the Daily Mail isn't exactly a reputable source, or so I've been told. Like, it seems on both the establishment and the anti-establishment, they talk bad about the Daily News, about the Daily Mail, and here I can see why. So to just briefly go through the article, and yes, I know, like, I've done this the second video in a row I've done on this topic, but hey, we're gonna go through this. Because police are examining sickening statements about child abuse made by a highly controversial UKIP statement. Now, again, you have to remember, I'm someone that I'm like, my essential, the way I go about things in life is when I call someone something, if I say something bad about someone, if I say they're a racist or a sexist, or if they support child, what was the exact quote? It's okay to sexually abuse boys. If I were to come out and say something like that about someone, that's a major life-destroying claim. Because if I were to say someone's a sexist or racist or anything like that, that is something where I don't want to be around those people. So if someone was actually like that can destroy their life, because it's an awful thing to be. So if I'm going to call someone that, I need substantial evidence here. I'm not just going to throw out that claim. I need substantial evidence. And it seems that apparently what I use for my YouTube channel here, I hold evidence and I demand more evidence. I have a higher standard of evidence here for my YouTube channel than the Daily Mail has for their article. Just saying, just pointing that out here. Carl Benjamin was formally adopted by the party as a candidate for the European elections last week, despite fury over his remark that he wouldn't even rape a Labour MP. So what we're saying right now is there was fury that he said he wouldn't rape someone, just pointing that out there, that he wouldn't even rape someone. So, again, it's like, what do you want him to do? Do you want him to flip his position? Do you want him to do the opposite? Do you want him to retract that and say, okay, sure, I changed my mind, I support the opposite? Like, what do you expect? Like, what do you want here? I'm confused about that. Are we now at this point where we're saying, okay, someone says they wouldn't rape someone, how dare they? Like, it's absolutely nonsensical if you get rid of all the outrage and you just look at what people are actually saying. I think they do this on purpose. They try to drive up all this outrage so that you don't actually take a second to look at what someone is saying. All you do is you just listen to it. Or you just see that there's outrage and you're automatically primed. Okay, people are mad about this. I probably should be too. And you don't actually look at what they're saying. So now a senior UKIP source has told the Mail on Sunday that they have passed a dossier to Wiltshire police containing deeply offensive remarks made by Mr. Benjamin, an online vlogger from Swindon who calls himself Sargon of Akkad. The insider says the dossier was passed to UKIP's ruling National Executive Council last autumn, but no action was taken. So let's see, a political party who is all about, like, when you're in politics, you need to look good, right? When you're in politics, you want to get elected. You want to make sure your candidates are decent people. So when someone sends you a dossier and you ignore that dossier, it probably suggests that it wasn't that important. Or it wasn't reliable, or it wasn't worth trusting, that kind of thing. I think we can say that. It includes a YouTube broadcast in which Mr. Benjamin says, I can be quoted as saying you can F young boys. It's actually not as controversial as you think. Depends on the child, doesn't it? So, of course, they don't actually include the cited source here. They don't actually cite anything, which I guess that's how newspapers used to be, because, of course, when you put things on print, you can't exactly include hyperlinks on print, but that bothers me. Just now I'm going to say that. Like, that bothers me. I tend to not read things if they don't specifically hyperlink things, if they don't specifically say, this is what they're referring to, see for yourself. which is why, again, I try to include everything in the description. This article will be in the description. Anything I reference here will be in the description, that if I can find it. So I just find that interesting. They don't cite the source. And of course, this came from a conversation with the Justicar, the video here. Link in the description. The timestamp is 26:19. If you want the full context, that's the start of it. A very nice person in the comment section was nice enough to actually timestamp the 26:19 with context, 26:50 without context. And if you're not aware, this is a live stream. So for one, like, this is live. It's not something you can go back and edit. It's not something you can go and proofread in that. It's just something completely live. And they were talking with a dude, and this dude, the Justicar, is apparently like, yeah, he was a victim of pedophilia. The dude was like, yeah, I'm going to say that the dude is a victim of pedophilia, but essentially, it seems that in this context, he brought up and was like, yeah, I am not a victim. I understand how other people can be. I understand why people in some circumstances are victims. They don't know what they're doing. This guy's saying, I know what I was doing. Now, I kind of disagree with that. I think if you're a victim of pedophilia, you're a victim of pedophilia. There's not much else you can say there. But Sargon was put on the spot. You can tell he was very uncomfortable. You can tell, like, well, I'm put in a... Do I just come out and tell this guy, no, you're a victim, and I don't care what you personally think. I'm here to tell you that I know that you're a victim. Are you really going to say that? Well, again, he was put kind of in a rock and a hard place. Like, what exactly do you say to that? So you can tell he was just kind of awkwardly trudging through it, and he's like, what? And then he kind of says, like, well, I haven't really thought about it. Like, you can tell he's in an uncomfortable spot. Do you really call out someone and just say, no, you're wrong, you're a victim? Because that's... Like, who are you to tell someone that they're a victim if they truly believe that they weren't a victim? So it's like, yeah, just the context is all here if you want to see it. But I'm just going to point out, this is something you can pretty much dispose of. For one, they didn't include the context. The article does not include the context, which means if they didn't include the context, I think that means you can just kind of say, what do they have to hide here? You add in the context, and it's like, oh, so what you're doing is he was kind of put in a tough spot, and as... Obviously, this guy's at his channel for years and years. He's clarified. He's gone out and say, yes, like, the age of consent is fine. This stuff is awful. This stuff is terrible. They even thrown out quotes like, sure, obviously it depends on, certain people are more mature than others. For some reason, for some people it should be higher. For other people it should be lower. But this is a legal system. You need a straight around rule. The current system is fine, is what he said. Now, another thing I find interesting is that the Daily Mail seems to have tied and gone in league with the alt-right here. The alt-right, again, everyone I don't like is alt-right. They're going after the alt. Like, the alt-right is like the worst thing you can be in the mainstream. And here's the Daily Mail siding with the alt-right here. The alt-right who are writing all these hit pieces and going, like, the alt-right go after Sargon pretty much 24/7. Like, they post all this stuff. Like, they've fought, they've debated quite a bit. They're pretty much enemies of one another. Like, you have Sargon who's like, yeah, liberal principles, liberalism, like the Enlightenment values, that kind of thing. Then you have the alt-right who are like ethno-states and that. They have clashed quite a bit. Their ideals are complete opposites here. And the Daily Mail sees this battle here between the alt-right and Sargon, and they figure, who am I going to side with? Who am I going to go to for resources? Who am I going to rely on? I'm going to rely on the hit pieces from the alt-right to go after this dude. Now, they don't pick a side. They don't pick the guy that supports liberalism. No. And you can tell that because they never actually go and say, this is what he believes, this is why it's wrong. They always say, well, the alt-right said he says something, so therefore it's bad. Therefore he's bad. It's just pure nonsense. You have the alt-right here, where you have the Daily Mail working, not necessarily working together, but siding with the alt-right by relying on their attacks, their hit pieces, to go after a guy. But yeah, it's nonsense. It's pure, it's like, take a moment to look up the context. It's like when you've been on YouTube for that long, you're going to say some stuff. You're going to say some stuff that could be taken out of context, and that's exactly what they did. The dossier also includes a screenshot of a social media message in which Benjamin says he needs something to really trigger outrage, adding, do you have any underage porn or child porn? I will delete it fast so nobody gets in trouble. This was a screenshot. I remember this happening. This was like 2015, 2016. I remember when this thing went around. It was a fake screenshot. Obviously it was a fake screenshot. Because they couldn't verify. There was no way they could verify. And on top of that, again, a total fake screenshot put out by, I believe it was put out by the alt-right. And again, there is a video right here that I will leave muted here so you can see. Let's go to the better view here. You can see the person actually goes through. It's on double speed, so again, they're doing this much faster. But they're showing how anyone that knows anything about editing and tech knows how you can change this stuff. You can make anything say whatever you want. You can take what this guy's doing here, a screenshot of a text of two people saying completely different things, and you can edit it to say whatever you want. Like, that's how tech works. It's just go to any page and press F12 on your computer. Go to any web page, press F12. You'll see what this guy sees here, how he can go around and change things. And this is exactly how it works. You can go around and make a conversation between me and someone be a conversation between two random people. It's like when people fake, they make the memes of like Donald Trump saying something to Obama in a secret group chat, or like when they make memes like that. You can make this say whatever you want. And as this guy's done right here, I'm actually going to skip ahead. That you can see how this is exactly what he's doing. You can go through and you can make this say whatever you want. This is him. Like, this is a dude right now faking the exact screenshot that they said was evidence. So it's pure nonsense. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's stuff that you cannot rely on at all, and you shouldn't. Again, you shouldn't rely on it. So the fact that they have to restore down to this, and this is stuff that was all debunked years ago, right? Like, this is stuff, it happened like when is this video from, actually? 2017. Okay, 2 years ago. This was made in 2017. We already went through this whole thing, and Daily Mail's now like, we're going to bring this back up. We're going to resurrect this stuff because we've got nothing. Like, again, if you have to rely on faked screenshots, if you have to rely on bringing up things without context and just taking things and making them seem as, like, absolutely terrible when they're actually not. If you're going to do stuff like that, it proves you've got nothing, right? It proves you have nothing. You have no actual arguments against someone. It means that you have nothing here to say against someone. You have to go and take things out of context. You have to go mess things up. And you have to go fake things and put out stuff. And this is stuff I wonder if they could actually get sued for this. Like, I think this is something they could actually get sued for, because they put out something that is so blatantly false that like you could actually get sued for this, for libel. So it's ridiculous. Benjamin was banned in Twitter for in 2017 for violating the platform's rules on targeted abuse. Last night, when asked about the child sex remarks which he made in 2014, Benjamin, who was standing for the EU's Parliament's Southwest England constituency, said it was an abstract conversation. It was an abstract conversation. You are a dirty, dirty smear merchant. Yes, that is completely accurate. He added that he believed the age of consent should be 18, as he has said multiple times. And again, it's rather interesting, because articles like this have been out before. Like, this is nothing new here. This is stuff we've all known for years. Or at least the people that have followed, known about for years. And you know why? Because they dealt with the alt-right. They dealt with the the white nationalists that hate him so much. It's like, who do you think the white nationalists hate more, the Daily Mail or Sargon? Seems to be Sargon, because they tend to go after him more. So they've already done it. They've already put out all these hit pieces, and we've debunked them. We refuted them. People have gone out and said, yeah, this is why you're wrong. And of course, the Daily Mail, 2 years later, actually looks at this and says, hey, this hit pieces that nobody's seen on any mainstream site, we could put this stuff out there. So yeah, it's just like, it's just pure nonsense. The source, who had been interviewed by the police about the material, said the party leadership were fully aware of this as long ago as September, and not only did nothing about it, but actually allowed Benjamin to join the party and become a lead candidate. I would swear an affidavit to that event. Yes. If they knew about it, it's probably because it was all faked, as I just established. Again, there's, I'm sure if you just Google search, there will be loads of people coming out and saying this is why this is wrong. They will go out and debunk this much better than I can, probably. But all I can really say is I haven't followed the guy. I haven't watched every single video. I haven't seen everything he's done. But I've watched a considerable amount of his stuff, and it's like, yeah, I can see how he talks. Like, I know what he believes. Like, I know what this guy believes, because if you want to know what someone believes, you can't just take a 10-second clip. You can't just read an article on what they believe. You actually have to watch and listen to what they say. That's how you find out what they believe. And I can tell you that this is all nonsense. This is all just hit pieces. It's absolutely ridiculous stuff. And it is rather interesting. I mean, look at the comments. If there's comments on this video, you'll probably see the people that tend to hate him are probably not probably not really decent people. I'm just gonna say it's rather interesting that they're, again, relying on the alt-right hit pieces that happened 2 years ago. And I'm not someone that's just saying, oh, everything I don't like is alt-right. Like, no, this was actually the real alt-right, not like the fake alt-right where the media is like, oh, I don't like this person and they're center-right or centrist, they're alt-right. No, I mean the actual alt-right. It's rather interesting how they went after him with this stuff, with all this fake stuff, and now the Daily Mail is resurrecting it 2 years later to drum up all this drama and just rely on this stuff. Other material studied by the police include now deleted 2015 videos showing him repeatedly using the racial slurs. Yes, he used a lot of racial slurs. That's just how he talks. I mean, he's like, that's his comedy, basically. Like, that's his he is a very politically incorrect guy. It's like if you watch a comedian, if you watch a stand-up comedian and they throw out a bunch of like racial slurs in that, again, like, is it for their comedy? Is it for what they actually believe? You can say, okay, that's pretty, like, I don't like people saying that. I don't like how he's being mean to these people, whatever. Like, that's, it has nothing to do with his actual ideas. It has nothing to do with what he actually believes. It has nothing to do with, like his actual arguments. So again, they're not addressing this. They're going off to, he said a mean word. He said a mean word. And it's, of course, where's the context? Like, they just said, oh, he said this word. Like, where's the context? Because the context is important. You might say, oh, there are certain words that there's no redeemable context. You can say that. And you can believe that, and you can say, like, if I know someone says this word, there is no redeeming context that can make that okay. Well, as we've seen, there was a journalist that got in an argument with Count Dankula, the guy that did the Nazi pug video. He got in an argument over over context. Is context important? And what he basically says was, what the guy basically said was, you said gas the Jews. Is there any there's no context that can redeem someone saying gas the Jews? And Mi Chan's like, you just said it. Like, you just now said that phrase. Like, are you now approving that? Does that make you a horrible person? What? It's like, obviously, no, because the context was he was referencing someone, he was quoting someone. So again, context is important. I'm sure you can find context for all this stuff. I've probably watched those videos back in 2015 or whatever, and I can tell you, at no point have I ever gone and said, like, okay, wow, this person's a racist, this person's sexist, this person's prejudiced in any way. No, I've never done that. In fact, Again, I don't have the source video in front of me. I'm not going to go back through this guy's years and years worth of stuff, as they seem to be, as the people that write hit pieces want to do. I'm not going to go back through all their stuff, but I'm severely confident that you can look this up. You can find the context. You can find all this stuff. And all the context will probably be, oh, this person is a racist. This person is an identitarian. They support identity politics, or they support the power politics thing. Because that's pretty much what he talks about. Though pretty much his entire YouTube channel is like identity politics, prejudice, racism. That stuff is bad. That's pretty much the guy's whole channel, in a lot of respects. And I have no doubt in my mind that what he's doing is he's just referencing what they're saying and turning their own arguments against him, that kind of thing. So, but that stuff you can find. I'm not going to go through all that. Benjamin 39 first hit headlines in 2016 when he tweeted, "I wouldn't even rape you," and MP Jess Phillips, which UKIP leader Gerard Batten labeled satire. So, yeah, and they even confronted him on one. He's like, yeah, I think we should treat men and women equally. So when someone's being awful, I'm going to call that out. And pretty much, again, notice what the guy's saying. He's saying he wouldn't rape someone. Like, he's saying I wouldn't rape someone. And the reason he even said it, like, if you look up his videos, the reason he even said it was, okay, I'm going to say something that is the opposite of a rape threat, and people will take it as a rape threat. And that's exactly what they did. That was the whole point. Like, the literal point was to say, I'm going to say something that isn't a threat, and people will take it as a threat. And that's exactly what happened. And you have to ask yourself, if you're not a fan of what he said there, if you're not a fan of that quote, like, do you want him to retract it and state the opposite? Like, do you really want him to say the opposite? I don't think anyone wants them to. And this is pretty much it. Now we're on to more comments. And I find this interesting how I actually left a comment, and they say the comments below have been moderated in advance. I left a comment, now it's gone. And it wasn't a mean comment. It wasn't me, like, swearing at these people, or it wasn't me saying you're terrible. It was just what am I saying? It was just a regular, like, this stuff is wrong, this stuff is false, and I'm pointing it out, and now it's gone. So I'm just gonna point that out there, like, and I've seen other people say that too. They post comments and it's gone. But if we just look at the comments here, like, goodness me, hey, free pass to Nigel Fries when he leaves UKIP. What's going on? Have to do better than that if you want to this guy needs to learn English. All lies, obviously. As a Brexit candidate said this. I'm still having trouble with some of the English stuff here, but such rubbish, out of context, scumbag, UKIP is extended death spiral. So I find this interesting here is that the comments they're going through, they're a lot of the comments that they seem to be attacking, they seem to have, like, filtered through this stuff. But yeah, to pretty much wrap up there, I'm not going to go through the comments because I haven't read them yet, so I can't, like, actually go through and like I just said, I went through 3 comments and I couldn't even read what they were saying. So we'll skip that. But yeah, I just wanted to point that out, that they are, like, when they say their comments have been moderated, I posted, like, polite stuff. I posted polite, nothing that could be considered hate speech. I'm just saying, hey, what you said is wrong. Like, this stuff is false. And they removed it. So, and I assume they go through every few hours or so, every hour, I don't know, going through and moderating the comments. But yeah, it's just, it's awful stuff. Pretty much. And like, all I can really say is I don't have every single, like, I'm not going to go through the tens and tens of thousands of hours of content and go through all of them, but all I can say is I think at this point, you know, like, all I can say is if you're still not completely convinced, if you're like, well, you disproved that, but you didn't disprove these two things, or like you didn't provide context for this, but you did provide context for that, so you didn't refute the whole thing. Well, all I'm going to point out is if you're writing an article and one thing is completely false and taken out of context, and a second thing is false and completely taken out of context, and there's two more yet that haven't been debunked, I think we can safely say at that point that if the first two are false, we can't trust this article. I'm just going to say that. But I mean, let me know what you think in the comments section. Like, this is something that it bugs me, because when I say someone is operating in bad faith, or whenever I take a claim, whenever I attack someone and say they're a bad person or something like that, I have to be very careful. I try to be very careful with who I call. Like, if I call someone bad, I need to make sure I have tons of evidence that I'm positive that what I say is true, because I don't want to slander someone. Like, to slander someone is absolutely awful, and I don't want to be in that position. I don't want to be someone that's spreading around fake news and that. So when I say that this article is fake news, believe me, it is fake news. But yeah, let me know what you think in the comments section. Like the video if you enjoy, subscribe for more, spread this around, post this in the comment sections. Post this video in all the comment sections, the people that are citing it as a source and saying it's reliable. Because it's not. It's just, it makes the media look bad. This Glenn Owen person, don't go around and send them death threats. But I'm just gonna say, if you ever see anything by Glenn Owen, don't be a jerk. Don't contact them and say, oh, you're a terrible person like that. But if this so-called Glenn Owen person, if you see anything by them in the future, you might want to dismiss it. If you're a company if you're a media company and you get a resume from a Mr. Glenn Owen or Miss Glenn Owen, I think there are. I have known women that are actually named Glenn. So I don't know. But if you see that, maybe pass on it. But yeah, again, subscribe for more if you enjoyed this video. And thanks for watching.